There are women who move through existence carrying something ancient within them, a silent wisdom that distinguishes them from the frantic world around them. You sense it when you encounter them, though you may not comprehend why. Their presence possesses a depth that cannot be acquired from books or borrowed from experiences. It emerges from within, like water from a subterranean spring that has been flowing long before this current life began. Something in their gaze speaks of journeys taken through internal landscapes most individuals never glimpse. Carl Jung spoke of souls that bear the accumulated insight of the collective unconscious, consciousnesses that have traveled through layers of human experience beyond what a solitary lifetime could contain. These are not mere theories or romantic notions. They are recognizable patterns that emerge naturally in certain women. 12 distinct signs that reveal themselves without struggle or intention. The woman with an old soul does not select these traits. They choose her. She embodies them because she cannot live any other way, as naturally as a river follows the path carved by ancient currents. What you are about to discover may mirror something you have always felt but never named. These 12 signs are not accomplishments to achieve or goals to pursue. They are revelations of what already exists beneath the surface of your being. Recognizing them does not create them. It simply brings to light what has been true all along. And this recognition alters everything about how you understand yourself and your place in a world that often seems designed for a different kind of person entirely. The first sign appears as a hunger that material comfort cannot quench. While others find contentment in accumulation and achievement, the woman with an old soul wakes each morning with a question burning quietly inside her chest. What does this all mean? The question is not philosophical entertainment or idle curiosity. It is a vital need like breath or water. She cannot ignore it even when she tries. Her search for meaning often leads her away from conventional paths. While others follow prescribed routes, she finds herself drawn to philosophy, depth psychology, and spiritual traditions that speak to the soul's evolution rather than the ego's satisfaction. She reads Jung not for academic interest, but because his words describe an inner terrain she has been navigating without a map. She recognizes herself in his descriptions of individuation, that lifelong process of becoming who you truly are beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. This seeking takes her to places others cannot understand. Have you ever felt homesick for somewhere you have never been? The second sign manifests as an inexplicable connection to certain places, cultures, or historical periods. A woman with an old soul may encounter a landscape and feel a recognition so profound it brings tears. Not nostalgia for a remembered vacation, but a cellular memory that transcends this single existence. She stands before ancient ruins or walks through a particular landscape, and something inside her whispers, "I know this place." She might feel an inexplicable affinity for Celtic spirituality, find herself moved to tears by a Japanese tea ceremony, or sense a deep recognition when studying indigenous wisdom traditions. These are not casual interests or aesthetic preferences. They feel like remembering rather than learning. When she encounters these resonances, something inside her relaxes, as if a part of her that has been holding its breath can finally exhale. Not literally a past life memory, though she may wonder, but rather an archetypal resonance. The soul recognizes patterns it has witnessed through the vast memory of humanity itself. The third sign reveals itself in how she relates to suffering. Her compassion is not performed or cultivated through moral effort. It emerges naturally like a spring that cannot help but flow. The woman with an old soul perceives the unity between all beings, not as a spiritual concept, but as a lived reality. When she witnesses pain in another, she does not separate herself from it. She recognizes it as part of the universal human experience. The boundaries between self and other feel permeable to her in ways that can be both gift and burden. Her desire to help arises without need for recognition or gratitude. She gives because giving is the natural expression of understanding that there is no real separation between self and other. When someone suffers, part of her suffers not in a codependent or boundaryless way, but from genuine recognition of interconnection. This empathy can be exhausting, for she feels the world's weight more acutely than most. She cannot easily turn away from suffering or dismiss it as someone else's problem. She carries awareness of collective pain that others manage to ignore through distraction or denial. Yet, despite this exquisite sensitivity, the fourth sign emerges as an unshakable inner calm. External crises do not destabilize her core. She has witnessed, through some mysterious inner knowing, the transitory nature of all human dramas. While others panic during turbulence, she becomes a natural point of stability, not because she is indifferent, but because she has learned that the storm always passes. She has developed what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to hold tension between opposites without collapsing into one side or the other. In moments of collective despair, people instinctively turn to her, sensing her groundedness, even if they cannot articulate why. Her presence communicates that it is possible to remain centered when the world tilts. She does not preach or reassure with empty platitudes. Her very being becomes a reminder that there is something in us that cannot be destroyed by circumstances, a core essence that survives every loss and betrayal. This quality makes her a natural counselor, the friend others call in crisis, the colleague who remains clear-headed when everyone else is reactive. This inner stability allows the fifth sign to manifest with particular clarity. She is perpetually ahead of her time, perceiving patterns and cultural shifts before they become obvious to others. Jungian thought explains this as heightened sensitivity to archetypal patterns stirring in the collective unconscious before they crystallize into social movements or widespread awareness. Jung believed that significant cultural changes first emerge as shifts in the collective unconscious, rippling outward into dreams, art, and the intuitions of sensitive individuals before manifesting as obvious social phenomena. Yet this gift often isolates her. When she speaks of changes she perceives, others may dismiss her as impractical, strange, or overly dramatic. They are not ready to see what she sees. Years later, when her observations become mainstream, no one remembers that she spoke of it first. Being a pioneer means carrying the loneliness of vision. She has learned not to explain too much, for those who are ready will understand, and those who are not will resist. No matter how clearly she articulates her knowing, she walks ahead of the collective, which means she often walks alone. This necessary distance from collective consciousness naturally leads to the sixth sign that marks the woman with an old soul. She not only tolerates solitude, she requires it as essential nourishment. For her, time alone is not social failure or escape from responsibility. It is the sacred space where she returns to herself, where she can hear the whispers of her inner world without the constant noise of external demands and expectations drowning them out. She often feels like a foreigner in her own time, as if she arrived from another era and is trying to navigate customs that feel alien to her nature. The speed of modern life, the superficiality of most social interaction, the noise and distraction that others seem to thrive on. These things drain her energy rather than enlivening it. Moments of solitude become opportunities for integration, for processing the overwhelming input of a world that moves too fast and values too little. In silence, she reconnects with the source of her knowing, that quiet voice within that speaks truth when everything external is clamor and confusion. Others may worry she is lonely, but she understands the difference between loneliness and sacred aloneness. In solitude, she is not running from connection. She is returning to the deepest connection possible, the one with her own soul. Here she can read, reflect, create, and simply be without performing or explaining. She emerges from these periods renewed, able to engage with the world again because she has touched the still point within that reminds her who she is beneath all roles and obligations. This capacity for productive solitude is one of her greatest strengths, though the world rarely recognizes it as such. The seventh sign appears in her relationship with material possessions and external markers of success. She cannot attach meaning to accumulation. Objects feel heavy to her, temporary and ultimately empty of real value. Jung taught that the experienced soul recognizes the futility of gathering what cannot be carried beyond this life. She has released the illusion that happiness can be purchased or that status provides genuine fulfillment. This realization did not come from moralistic rejection of materialism. It arose naturally from lived experience, from discovering that each achievement and acquisition she pursued left her feeling the same inside. This does not mean she lives in poverty or rejects beauty. Rather, she finds richness in simplicity, recognizing essence beneath appearance. A sunset moves her more than an expensive purchase. A genuine conversation feeds her more than a prestigious social event. She has internalized the truth that only inner growth and authentic experience constitute lasting treasure. Everything else is borrowed scenery in a play that will eventually end, props we use temporarily before returning them when the curtain falls. The eighth sign shows itself in her natural affinity with children and the elderly. Jung observed that evolved souls recognize in children the archetype of the eternal child, the pure eternus, representing original purity and unfiltered connection to the archetypal realm. She sees in their eyes something she remembers, a clarity not yet obscured by societal conditioning. Children respond to her differently than to most adults. They sense she sees them truly, not as projects to mold, but as complete souls in smaller bodies. She speaks to children with respect, understanding that age does not determine the depth of a soul. She listens to their observations, their questions, and their imaginative constructions of reality, recognizing in these expressions a wisdom that adults have forgotten. Children often share with her what they hide from others. Sensing safety in her presence, she creates a sanctuary for others to be genuinely themselves, which is perhaps the most significant gift one spirit can offer another. This harmony with both ends of the human life cycle discloses a profound reality. True age is not calculated in years, but in the vastness of the soul. She identifies with both children and the elderly because they exist closest to the veil, to the honesty that middle life frequently overlooks in its frantic obsession with constructing and upholding. Children have recently emerged from the mystery. The aged are preparing to return to it. She occupies that middle ground but remains focused on the mysterious rather than the commonplace, which is why she discovers kinship at both extremities of the age range. The ninth sign shows itself as a natural spiritual longing that stems from her core. Her fascination with transcendent realities does not result from trauma or panic, nor from a dread of mortality or a desire for safety. It is an inherent requirement of her existence, much like a flower turning toward the sun. According to Jung, old souls possess a sharp intuition that instinctively notices subtle layers of reality hidden from standard perception. The spiritual domain is not a means of escape for her, but an acknowledgement of what is essentially true, the invisible framework that supports the tangible world. Religious systems and rigid dogmas feel restrictive to her broadened perspective. She honors traditions but cannot limit herself to a solitary version of truth. She might explore numerous paths, discovering insight in unlikely places, Christian mystics, Buddhist meditative techniques, indigenous animism, or Jungian psychology as a sacred road. She gathers from varied origins, knitting together her own clarity. She understands that ultimate truth cannot be trapped in language or regulations. It must be encountered firsthand, lived intimately, and found through one's own internal pilgrimage. This spiritual alignment dictates how she navigates the world. She pursues significance over pleasure, development over comfort, and truth over diversion. This does not render her somber or miserable. In reality, she often feels deep happiness in quiet moments because she notices the radiant quality beneath everyday events. A shared dinner becomes a sacrament. A challenging talk becomes a chance for deeper intimacy. Deprivation becomes a rite of passage into a more sincere life. Everything serves as a spiritual exercise when you meet life with this degree of mindfulness. The 10th sign is perhaps the most apparent to others, showing itself in a quality that cannot be faked or concealed. Her eyes hold something that cannot be imitated. There is a weight in her look that tells of long internal travels, of grief transformed into wisdom, of fantasies dropped and truths welcomed. Jung suggested that eyes mirror not just this life but the sagacity of the self, that deeper core of awareness that connects to the eternal beyond the ego's petty worries and goals. When you look into her eyes, you feel you are perceived entirely, not just the mask you show but the reality underneath. This can be immensely soothing or deeply disturbing depending on how comfortable you are with your own shadows. Her gaze does not condemn, but it witnesses. There is a sense of observation and recognition that can make others feel simultaneously vulnerable and embraced. She sees your darkness and your brilliance, your scars and your possibilities, and she does not recoil from either. When two old souls cross paths, there is often a heartbeat of silent awareness that moves between them through eye contact alone. No speech is required. The validation is instant and deep. They understand. In that instance, the solitude each carries softens slightly. Someone else perceives what they perceive and knows what they know. These encounters are scarce and therefore invaluable. They prove that she is not isolated in her way of existing. Even though she spends most of her life on a trail others do not follow, her eyes also reveal what she has unified. Jung wrote extensively about the shadow, those aspects of ourselves we discard and bury. The woman with an old soul has performed the grueling work of encountering her shadow. She acknowledges her potential for darkness, merging what she discovered there instead of casting it onto others. This unification appears in her eyes as a contradictory quality, a softness born from knowing her own rigidity, and a mercy born from admitting her own capacity for harshness. She has encountered herself fully, and that meeting altered her vision. The 11th sign manifests in her potent intuition, a knowing that functions beyond logical deduction. This is not guesswork or hopeful thinking. Her intuition acts as a direct link to the collective unconscious, reaching wisdom that skips over linear thought. Jung clarified that intuition is the voice of the psyche communicating through present-moment awareness, pulling from knowledge that exists beyond personal history. It is one of the 4 functions of consciousness in his framework, the one that spots possibilities and designs not yet apparent to the senses or the intellect. She has learned to rely on these inner signals even when they defy logic or general consensus. Frequently, her intuitive flashes prove correct in ways that even startle her. She might feel when someone is being dishonest without any physical proof. Their words may sound accurate, yet something in her knows they are hollow. She can sense results before they arrive, feeling in her bones which path to take even when she cannot justify why. She knows to stay away from specific scenarios or decline certain offers without grasping the reasons until later, when circumstances validate her instinct. This talent can be lonely because she lives in a society that prizes logical evidence and ignores subtle knowing. When she follows her gut, others may doubt her choices or imply she is being irrational. Yet she has learned through experience that neglecting her intuition always results in disappointment. Every time she has silenced that soft inner voice to satisfy others or fit into external logic, she has paid a toll. She has learned to respect this gift even when she cannot defend it with facts, and even when doing so makes her appear strange or illogical to those around her. Her intuition also steers her spiritual and mental growth. She knows when to depart from a situation, when a bond has served its intent, when she needs to retreat for internal work, or when she is ready to step into a new version of herself. This intuitive lead works like an inner magnet, constantly pointing her toward her next phase of evolution. She does not require outside experts to dictate her actions. Wisdom flows through her directly, and she has learned to identify its tone among all the other voices demanding her focus. The 12th and final sign shows up in her remarkable grasp of human nature. The woman with an old soul looks through social facades with simplicity. She notices the buried motives, reflexive habits, and shadow traits that people strive to hide. Jung taught that those who have integrated their own shadow naturally spot the ego games of others. Having looked at her own darkness and her own capacity for denial, she can navigate these same patterns in others like a familiar landscape. She is not misled by charisma or polished displays. She interprets energy and intent more precisely than speech and behavior. Someone may speak eloquently, but she feels the void behind the rhetoric. Another person might be clumsy and quiet, yet she senses the sincere heart beneath the awkward exterior. This insight shields her from deceit and shallow connections. She cannot be easily tricked or charmed by surface traits. She sees what is actual. However, this clarity also produces a specific type of solitude. When you see past the act, authentic connection becomes rare and vital. Most social contact happens on a shallow level that she can no longer inhabit. Casual chatter tires her because she feels the real emotions and requirements beneath the polite words, the suffering people hide, and the desires they have suppressed. She finds herself in crowds while feeling entirely alone, for few are prepared to meet her at the depth where she naturally exists. She is not conceited about this perception. If anything, it makes her more empathetic. She understands that most people are unintentionally moved by wounds and anxieties they haven't yet addressed. She sees the child inside every grown-up and the ache behind every wall. This grasp prevents judgment even as it maintains distance. She cannot unsee what she perceives. She cannot go back to the simplicity of taking everything at face value. This is both the burden and the honor of deep sight. These 12 signs are not trophies to collect or targets to hit. They grow naturally like blossoms from a tree with deep roots. The woman with an old soul does not try to prove her maturity to anyone. She simply exists from this state of being, often without realizing how different her inner world is from the people around her. She may move through life feeling like a constant outsider, wondering why she cannot just be normal or find joy in what others do. Jung reminds us that identifying as an old soul is not a reason for arrogance, but a call to duty. It asks you to respect your specific journey of individuation, that lifelong task of becoming entirely yourself. It demands that you accept both the advantages and the weights that accompany deep vision. You cannot unlearn what you know, and you cannot return to a state of unawareness once you have woken up. This is your mission, to live your truth with honor even when the world ignores the value of what you provide. The true signature of a mature soul is modesty before the endless mystery of life. She knows that regardless of how much she learns, there are infinite layers still concealed. Every solution leads to deeper inquiries. Each revelation shows how much remains hidden. She walks her road with dignity and soft grace, not hunting for applause, but simply remaining faithful to the ancient wisdom dwelling within. She has discovered that her value is not based on being validated by others. It is inherent, woven into the very fabric of her spirit. If these signs felt familiar to you, perhaps you have always sensed what you are now beginning to name. This realization is not the conclusion of a trip, but a fresh start, a call to live more intentionally from your core truth. You are not solitary in this way of being. There are others on this path who grasp this mix of talent and isolation, who perceive what you perceive and feel what you feel. Continue exploring the vastness of your own spirit through the lens of ancient wisdom and the mysteries of the psyche. Your story is important. Your old knowledge has a function, and there are others who need to know they aren't alone in carrying this specific awareness. Let us walk this road together, honoring the old souls who preserve the wisdom the world so desperately requires. The final integration of these qualities leads to a state of profound self-reliance that is often mistaken for detachment. This is the stage where the woman with an old soul ceases to look for a map because she has become the terrain itself. She understands that the search for external gurus or definitive answers was merely a bridge to lead her back to her own internal authority. Her life becomes a testament to the idea that the soul does not evolve by adding new things, but by stripping away everything that is not essential. She learns to inhabit her body not just as a vessel, but as a lightning rod for consciousness, grounding the high-frequency insights of the spirit into the physical tasks of her daily routine. There is a specific kind of stillness that settles over her, a quietude that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of peace. This tranquility acts as a magnet, drawing in those who are exhausted by the noise of modern life. People may find themselves confessing their deepest secrets to her or seeking her counsel on matters they have never shared with anyone else, often surprised by the depth of the comfort they find. She holds this space with a gentle responsibility, knowing that her role is not to save others, but to witness them into their own healing. This is the ultimate expression of the old soul, the ability to exist in the world without being consumed by it. She walks through the crowded marketplaces and digital landscapes of the present day while keeping one foot firmly planted in the timeless. She recognizes that the dramas of the ego are merely passing clouds, and while she participates in the human experience with full heart and sincerity, she never loses sight of the sky. Her journey is a constant invitation to others to look up, to remember their own vastness, and to realize that they too are part of a much older and more beautiful story than the one they have been told. As she continues to evolve, the boundaries between her inner and outer worlds begin to soften, and she discovers that the mystery she once sought in the distance has been breathing through her all along. Every breath becomes an act of devotion, every step a prayer, and every encounter a holy meeting. This is the quiet revolution of the old soul, to live with such profound presence that the very act of existing becomes a source of light for a world in transition. As the journey deepens, she discovers that her greatest strength lies in her capacity for surrender. This is not a passive giving up, but a courageous release of the need to control the flow of existence. She stops fighting against the current of her life and begins to move with it, understanding that the universe has a rhythm far more complex and beautiful than her individual mind could ever devise. This shift in perspective allows her to navigate the challenges of the physical world with a lightness that appears almost supernatural to others. When obstacles arise, she does not meet them with resistance, but with curiosity, asking what this moment has to come to teach her about the nature of her own spirit. This radical acceptance transforms her relationship with time itself. She no longer feels the frantic pressure to achieve or to prove herself within a specific time frame. Instead, she settles into the expansive now, recognizing that her soul operates on a timeline that spans eons rather than decades. This timelessness gives her a unique patience with the people around her. She can wait for others to reach their own realizations without the urge to push or pull them, honoring the unique pace of every individual's awakening. This is the hallmark of her mature empathy, the ability to love people exactly as they are, in all their confusion and imperfection, while simultaneously holding a vision of their highest potential. Her presence becomes a catalyst for transformation in others, simply because she does not require them to change. In this space of unconditional witnessing, the defenses of those around her begin to melt away, revealing the tender, authentic core that usually stays hidden. She becomes a guardian of the sacred in the middle of the ordinary, finding the divine in the steam rising from a cup of tea or the way the